The phone buzzed against the marble countertop like an angry wasp, and I should have let it die there in silence. But something about the way it vibrated, urgent, desperate, almost alive, made my hand reach for it before my brain could stop me. Alex was still in the shower, steam curling under the bathroom door, his voice echoing off the tiles as he hummed that old song he always sang when he was happy. I glanced at the screen. No name, just a number I didn't recognize. My finger hovered over the decline button, but then it buzzed again, more insistent this time. What if it was an emergency? What if someone needed Alex urgently? "Hello?" I whispered, pressing the phone to my ear. The voice that answered made my blood turn to ice water in my veins. "Alex, baby?" The woman's voice was soft, breathy, filled with a longing that made my stomach clench. "I can still feel your touch lingering on my skin from this morning." My hand trembled. I should have hung up immediately, should have pretended this moment never happened. But I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but listen as the voice continued. "She'll never suspect a thing, will she? Poor Nina, so trusting, so naive." A soft giggle followed, the kind of laugh that used to make me smile when I heard it across our childhood dinner table. "She has no idea that while she's trying so desperately to fix herself, we're building our future together." The phone slipped from my numb fingers, clattering against the counter, but not before I heard the final words that shattered my world completely. "I love you, Alex, and soon we won't have to hide anymore." The voice belonged to Sophia, my sister, my baby sister who I'd protected from bullies in school, who I'd helped through her first heartbreak, who I'd trusted with every secret I'd ever had. The sister who held my hand during every doctor's appointment, who brought me tea when the fertility treatments made me sick, who cried with me every month when the pregnancy tests came back negative. I stared at the phone screen as it went dark, my reflection ghost-like in the black surface. Behind me, the shower was still running, Alex still humming that stupid, happy song. He had no idea that his secret had just exploded in my face like a bomb. My legs felt like water. I gripped the edge of the counter, trying to steady myself as the room spun around me. 2 years. 2 years of failed fertility treatments, of hormone injections that made me feel crazy, of procedures that left me broken and empty. 2 years of Alex holding me while I cried, telling me we'd figure it out together, that he loved me no matter what. 2 years of Sophia bringing me soup when I was too sick to eat, of her researching new doctors and treatments, of her promising me that everything would work out. She'd even offered to be our surrogate if nothing else worked. "I'd do anything for you, Nina," she'd said just last week, her eyes bright with what I thought was love. "You're going to be such an amazing mother." The bathroom door opened, releasing a cloud of steam. Alex stepped out with a towel wrapped around his waist, water droplets still clinging to his shoulders. He looked exactly the same as he had an hour ago, the same dark hair, the same kind eyes, the same smile that had made me fall in love with him 7 years ago. But everything was different now. Everything was a lie. "Hey, beautiful," he said, walking over to kiss my forehead. His lips felt like ice against my skin. "You okay? You look pale." I forced my mouth to work, pushed words past the boulder lodged in my throat. "Just tired. The new medication is making me feel weird." He frowned with what looked like genuine concern. "Maybe you should call Dr. Harrison. We don't want you pushing yourself too hard." Dr. Harrison, the fertility specialist who'd been treating me for 2 years with no success. The doctor who kept adjusting my medications, who kept promising that the next treatment would work, who kept taking our money while my body refused to do the one thing I wanted most in the world. "Yeah," I managed. "Maybe I should." Alex squeezed my shoulder gently before heading to the closet. "I have to run some errands today. Tyler needs help with that new project, and then I promised I'd stop by your sister's place to help her move that heavy furniture." Sophia's place. Of course. I watched him get dressed. This man I'd shared a bed with for 6 years. This man I'd trusted with my heart and my dreams and my broken, failing body. He moved with the same easy confidence he always had, completely unaware that his world was about to come crashing down just like mine had. But not yet. Not until I figured out exactly how deep this betrayal went. "Have fun," I said, my voice sounding almost normal. "Tell Sophia I said hi." He smiled and kissed me goodbye, and I let him, tasting lies on his lips. 3 months earlier, I had believed I was living in a fairy tale. Not the Disney kind with singing birds and magic wands, but the real kind. The kind where love conquers all and families stick together through everything. How stupid I had been. It was a Tuesday morning in May when Dr. Harrison first mentioned the new treatment plan. I sat in his sterile office, Alex's hand warm in mine, while the doctor explained how this round of medications would be different, stronger, more targeted. The hormone levels we're seeing suggest your body is fighting the treatments, Dr. Harrison had said, his voice gentle but clinical. We need to try a more aggressive approach. I remember nodding eagerly, desperate for any hope. 2 years of trying to get pregnant had worn me down to nothing. Every negative test felt like a personal failure, every friend's pregnancy announcement like a knife to the heart. I would have tried anything. Whatever it takes, I'd whispered, squeezing Alex's hand. I just want to be a mom. Alex had lifted our joined hands to his lips, kissing my knuckles softly. We're in this together, baby. Whatever you need. Looking back now, I should have noticed how his eyes didn't quite meet mine when he said it. But I was too focused on hope, too blinded by trust to see the cracks in his performance. That afternoon, Sophia had shown up at our house with Chinese takeout and a bottle of wine. She did that a lot, appearing just when I needed her most, like she had some magical sister sense that told her when I was falling apart. How did the appointment go? She'd asked, settling onto our couch with her legs tucked under her. Sophia had always been the prettier sister, the one with the effortless grace and the bright smile that made everyone love her instantly. Even exhausted from another disappointing doctor's visit, she looked radiant. New medications, I'd said, showing her the bag of prescriptions. Dr. Harrison thinks these might work better. Sophia had picked up one of the bottles, reading the label with interest. Mind if I research these? You know how I am with chemistry stuff. It was true. Sophia had studied biochemistry in college before switching to photography. She was always reading medical journals and health articles, always trying to help me understand what was happening to my body when the doctors used words I couldn't pronounce. That would be amazing, I'd said, feeling grateful tears prick my eyes. I don't know what I'd do without you. She'd hugged me then, her familiar lavender perfume wrapping around me like comfort. You'll never have to find out. We're sisters. We stick together no matter what. Alex had joined us for dinner, and I'd watched him and Sophia chat easily about her latest photography project. They'd always gotten along well, which made me happy. Some of my friends complained about their husbands not liking their families, but Alex genuinely enjoyed Sophia's company. You should show Nina those photos from the park shoot, Alex had suggested, refilling Sophia's wine glass. The lighting in them is incredible. Sophia had blushed prettily. They're not that good, but I'll bring my laptop next time. Next time happened 3 days later, and then again the following week. Sophia started coming over more often, sometimes when Alex was home from work early, sometimes staying for dinner. She'd bring her camera equipment and show us her latest projects, or she'd help me organize my medication schedule, or she'd just sit with me when the hormone treatments made me too sick to do anything else. You're so lucky to have Alex, she'd said one evening while we watched a movie. Alex had fallen asleep in his chair, his face peaceful in the blue glow of the television. He's so patient with everything you're going through. Not every man would be so understanding. I'd smiled, feeling warm and grateful. I know, he's amazing. Sometimes I worry I'm putting too much stress on our marriage with all this fertility stuff, but he never complains. That's because he loves you, Sophia had said, but something in her voice had sounded strange. When I'd looked at her, though, her expression was perfectly normal. He'd do anything for you. The treatments got harder after that. The new medications made me nauseous and dizzy, gave me headaches that lasted for days. Some mornings I could barely get out of bed. Alex would bring me tea and toast, stroking my hair while I tried not to throw up. Maybe we should take a break. He'd suggested one particularly bad morning. Give your body time to recover. No, I'd said firmly. Dr. Harrison says this is normal. My body just needs time to adjust. Sophia had agreed when I'd called her, crying from frustration and pain. Don't give up, Nina. I have a good feeling about this round. Something tells me this is going to work. Her voice had been so confident, so sure. I'd trusted her completely. Now I knew why she'd been so certain. She'd known exactly what those medications were doing to me, because she'd been making sure they would fail. The days after that phone call felt like living underwater. Everything looked the same on the surface, but every sound was muffled. Every movement felt slow and strange. I went through the motions of normal life while my mind raced in circles, trying to make sense of what I'd heard. I started watching them differently. Alex would kiss me goodbye in the morning, and I'd study his face for signs of guilt. Sophia would text me funny memes like she always did, and I'd stare at the messages until the words blurred together. Was I going crazy? Had I imagined that phone call? But then I started noticing things I'd been too trusting to see before, like how Alex always seemed to know when Sophia was coming over, even when I hadn't told him, or how Sophia's visits had increased right around the time my treatments got more intense, or how they both seemed to know details about my medication schedule that I didn't remember sharing. 2 weeks after the phone call, I decided to follow them. It felt ridiculous, like something from a bad movie. But Tuesday had always been Alex's day to help Tyler with the business, and Sophia always seemed to be mysteriously busy on Tuesdays. So I called in sick to work, put on sunglasses and a baseball cap like some amateur detective, and waited in my car outside Alex's office building. At 11:30, Alex walked out. But instead of heading toward Tyler's workshop across town, he drove to Riverside Cafe, the little coffee shop downtown where Sophia and I used to go for sister dates when we were younger. My hands shook as I parked across the street and watched through the window. Alex sat at a corner table checking his phone. 5 minutes later, Sophia walked in. The way she moved toward him made my stomach drop. This wasn't the casual greeting of in-laws who got along well. Sophia slid into the seat across from Alex and immediately reached for his hands. Even from across the street, I could see the intimacy in the gesture, the way their fingers intertwined like they'd done it 1,000 times before. I sat in my car for 2 hours watching them. They leaned close together, whispering and laughing. Alex traced patterns on Sophia's palm with his finger. She fed him bites of her muffin. At one point, she got up to use the bathroom, and Alex watched her walk away with the same hungry look he used to give me. When Sophia came back, she didn't sit down immediately. Instead, she stood behind Alex's chair and wrapped her arms around his shoulders, pressing her cheek against his hair. He tilted his head back and said something that made her laugh, that bright, musical laugh I'd loved my whole life. Then she kissed the top of his head, and Alex caught her hand, bringing it to his lips to kiss her palm. I threw up in the parking lot behind my car. That night, Alex came home with flowers. "For my beautiful wife," he said, kissing my forehead. "Tyler and I finished the project early, so I stopped to get these for you." The flowers were daisies, my favorite. But as I put them in water, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. There was a small piece of paper tucked between the stems, like a note that had fallen from a bouquet. When I unfolded it, I saw Sophia's handwriting. "Thank you for a perfect afternoon. S." He'd given me flowers meant for my sister. I started checking his phone after that, but Alex was careful. He'd changed his passcode, and he never left it unattended anymore. But I found other things. Receipts for restaurants I'd never been to. A credit card statement showing purchases at a jewelry store the week before my birthday. But I'd never received any jewelry. Hotel charges for nights when Alex claimed to be working late. The worst part was how normal everything seemed on the surface. Alex still brought me coffee in the morning. Sophia still texted me daily. They both still asked about my treatments, still offered comfort when the medications made me sick, still promised that everything would work out. But now I noticed the looks they exchanged when they thought I wasn't watching, the way Sophia's hand would brush Alex's arm when she passed him in the kitchen, how Alex's voice got softer when he talked to her, the same tone he used to use only with me. 3 weeks after I'd started investigating, I was organizing my medication cabinet when I found something that stopped my heart. Hidden behind the bottles of fertility drugs was a small container I'd never seen before. The label was partially torn, but I could make out enough to know it wasn't something Dr. Harrison had prescribed. I took a photo of the label and researched it online. What I found made me sink to the bathroom floor, my whole body shaking. It was a hormone blocker, something that would prevent pregnancy, not encourage it. Someone had been sabotaging my treatments from the beginning, and there were only 2 people who had access to my medications, 2 people I trusted completely. My husband and my sister had been poisoning me. I stared at that pill bottle for 3 hours, turning it over in my hands like it might suddenly make sense. The label was torn just enough to hide the patient's name, but the medication was clear. Norethindrone acetate, a hormone that prevents ovulation. Birth control, essentially, but in a form that could be easily hidden in other medications. My mind raced back through 2 years of treatments. All those times Sophia had helped me organize my pills, making sure I took them at the right times. All those mornings, Alex brought me my medications with breakfast, being so thoughtful and caring. They hadn't been helping me get pregnant. They'd been making sure I couldn't. But I needed proof. Real proof that would hold up if I ever had to explain this nightmare to anyone else. The next morning, I called Dr. Harrison's office. "I'd like to schedule some additional blood work," I told his nurse. "I want to make sure the medications aren't causing any problems." "Of course, Mrs. Chen, Dr. Harrison always encourages patients to be proactive about monitoring their health during treatment." I almost laughed at the irony. If only he knew what I was really monitoring. That afternoon, I sat in the lab chair watching my blood fill vial after vial. I'd requested a comprehensive hormone panel, vitamin levels, and a toxicology screen. The lab technician looked surprised at the extensive list but didn't question it. "Results should be ready in 3 to 5 days," she said, labeling the last tube. "Dr. Harrison will call you if anything looks concerning." 3 days felt like 3 years. I went through the motions of normal life, taking my medications as usual, letting Alex and Sophia continue their charade of caring. But inside, I was screaming. On Thursday evening, Sophia came over with Thai food and a new bottle of prenatal vitamins. "I found these at the health store," she said, setting the bottle on the counter. "They're supposed to be better absorbed than the ones you're taking now. Maybe they'll help." I watched her face as she spoke, looking for any sign of guilt or deception. But Sophia had always been a good actress. Her expression was perfectly sincere, full of sisterly concern and hope. "That's so thoughtful," I managed. "You're always looking out for me." "Of course I am, you're my sister." She hugged me and I had to fight not to pull away. "We're going to figure this out, Nina. I promise." Alex joined us for dinner, and I watched them carefully throughout the meal. They were good at hiding it, but now that I knew what to look for, I could see the subtle signs. The way Sophia's eyes lingered on Alex when she thought I wasn't looking. How Alex's hand brushed hers when he passed the salt. The private smile they shared when I got up to answer the phone. Friday morning, Dr. Harrison called. "Nina, I need you to come in today. There are some irregularities in your blood work that we need to discuss immediately." My heart hammered as I drove to his office. Part of me had hoped I was wrong, that I was being paranoid and suspicious for no reason. But the grim expression on Dr. Harrison's face when I walked into his office told me everything I needed to know. "Please sit down," he said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. "Nina, I've been practicing reproductive medicine for 20 years, and I've never seen results quite like these." He spread several papers across his desk, pointing to highlighted numbers that meant nothing to me. "Your hormone levels are completely inconsistent with the medications you're supposed to be taking. In fact, they're consistent with someone who's been taking birth control pills for an extended period." The room started spinning. "What does that mean?" "It means someone has been giving you hormones that prevent pregnancy, not encourage it. The levels in your blood suggest this has been going on for months, possibly longer." His voice was gentle but serious. "Nina, I have to ask, is there any possibility that someone has been tampering with your medications?" I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The confirmation of my worst fears hit me like a physical blow. "There's more," Dr. Harrison continued. "We found traces of several other substances that shouldn't be in your system, anti-nausea medication that can interfere with fertility treatments, mild sedatives that would explain the fatigue and dizziness you've been experiencing. Someone with knowledge of pharmacology has been systematically sabotaging your ability to conceive." "How long?" I whispered. "Based on these levels, I'd estimate at least 18 months, possibly since you started treatment with me." 18 months. A year and a half of hope and heartbreak, of painful procedures and expensive treatments, of believing my body was broken when it was actually being poisoned by the 2 people I trusted most. "Dr. Harrison," I said, my voice barely audible, "I need you to document everything, every test result, every irregularity. I think I'm going to need evidence." His expression grew even more serious. "Nina, if someone is doing this to you deliberately, it's not just medical malpractice, it's assault. You need to consider involving the police." The police. The word hung in the air like a death sentence for my marriage, my family, my entire life. But as I sat there staring at the proof of their betrayal, I realized my life had already been destroyed. I just hadn't known it yet. I drove home from Dr. Harrison's office in a daze. the medical reports burning like fire in my purse. 18 months of systematic poisoning. 18 months of Alex and Sophia watching me suffer while they orchestrated every moment of my pain. But I wasn't ready to confront them yet. I needed more than medical evidence. I needed to hear them admit it. I needed to understand why. That evening, I made a decision that would have seemed impossible just weeks ago. I was going to record them. I downloaded a voice recording app on my phone and tested it several times, making sure it would pick up conversations clearly. Then I waited for the right moment. It came the next Tuesday. Alex announced he was meeting Tyler again, and Sophia texted that she was coming over to bring me soup since I'd mentioned feeling sick. The perfect setup for whatever twisted game they were playing. I called Alex 20 minutes after he left. "Hey, honey, I forgot to tell you. Sophia's coming over. Maybe you could stop by after your meeting with Tyler. She's bringing that photo album she wanted to show us." "Oh," Alex said, and I could hear something shift in his voice. "Actually, Tyler and I might run late today. Don't wait up for me." "No problem. Love you." "Love you too." The lie rolled off his tongue so easily. An hour later, Sophia arrived with homemade chicken soup and that bright smile that used to make everything better. I hugged her at the door, breathing in her lavender perfume, wondering how many times she'd embraced me while planning my destruction. "You look terrible," she said, studying my face with what looked like genuine concern. "Are you taking your medications properly?" "Every day, just like you and Alex make sure I do." Something flickered in her eyes, but she just nodded. "Good. Consistency is so important with fertility treatments." I served the soup while she chatted about her latest photography project, some wedding she'd shot over the weekend. Normal sister conversation, except nothing was normal anymore. "Sophia," I said carefully, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you think Alex and I will ever have kids?" She was quiet for a long moment, stirring her soup thoughtfully. "Why do you ask?" "Sometimes I wonder if my body is just broken. If maybe we should give up trying." "Don't say that." Her voice was sharp, almost angry. "You can't give up, Nina. Not when we're so close to getting what we want." The phrasing was strange. What we want, not what you want. What do you mean? Sophia set down her spoon and looked at me directly. I mean that sometimes things have to get worse before they get better. Sometimes people have to lose everything they think they want before they can see what they really need. My blood turned cold. "I don't understand." "Don't you?" She tilted her head, studying me like I was a puzzle she was trying to solve. "Nina, you've been so focused on having a baby that you've forgotten how to live. When was the last time you and Alex went on a real date? When was the last time you talked about anything besides ovulation schedules and hormone levels? We're trying to start a family. Of course, that's what we talk about. But what if you're not meant to have children? What if the universe is trying to tell you something?" I stared at her. This woman who'd shared my childhood, who'd been my maid of honor, who'd held my hand through every disappointment. "Are you saying I should give up?" "I'm saying maybe Alex deserves someone who can give him what he wants. Someone who isn't broken." The word hit me like a slap. Broken? "Oh, Nina." Sophia's voice was soft, almost pitying. "You must know how hard this has been on him. Watching you fall apart month after month, dealing with your mood swings from all those hormones, pretending to be hopeful when everyone can see this isn't working." "Everyone?" "Alex talks to me sometimes when he needs someone to listen. He loves you, but..." She shrugged delicately. "Love isn't always enough, is it?" My phone was recording everything, but I felt like I was drowning. "What are you saying, Sophia?" "I'm saying that maybe it's time to let him go. Let him find happiness with someone who can give him the family he wants." "Someone like who?" She smiled then, and it was the most beautiful and terrible thing I'd ever seen. "Someone like me." The confession hung in the air between us like poison gas. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but stare at my sister as she calmly destroyed what was left of my world. "We didn't plan for it to happen," she continued, her voice gentle and reasonable. "But Alex and I, we understand each other. We want the same things. And Nina, I'm already pregnant." The soup bowl slipped from my numb fingers, shattering against the kitchen floor. Chicken broth spread across the tiles like blood. You're what? 3 months along. We wanted to wait until after the first trimester to tell you, but maybe it's better this way. Maybe now you can finally let go and move on. 3 months. The same amount of time since I'd answered that phone call. They'd been planning this reveal, timing it perfectly to deliver maximum devastation. How long? I whispered. How long what? How long have you been sleeping with my husband? Sophia's smile never wavered. Does it really matter? What matters is that we're happy, Nina. And soon, you can be happy too, once you stop fighting what's meant to be. I stared at Sophia, my sister, carrying my husband's child, and felt something break inside me that I knew would never heal. But I wasn't done. I needed to know everything. The medications, I said, my voice barely a whisper. You've been tampering with my medications. Sophia's smile faltered for just a moment. I don't know what you mean. I found the hormone blockers, Sophia. I had blood work done. Dr. Harrison knows someone's been poisoning me. For a long moment, we stared at each other across the wreckage of my kitchen. Then Sophia laughed, that same musical sound that used to comfort me as a child. Oh, Nina, you always were too smart for your own good. The casual admission hit me like a physical blow. Why? Because you were never supposed to get pregnant. She stood up, stepping carefully around the broken bowl. Do you have any idea how long Alex has been unhappy? How many times he's told me he made a mistake marrying you? That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time he looked at you the way he used to? When was the last time he touched you without you having to ask? Sophia moved closer, her voice soft and cruel. He's been mine for over a year, Nina. The only reason he stayed was because he felt guilty about leaving you while you were struggling with fertility issues. My legs gave out. I sank into a chair, my whole body shaking. A year? 14 months, actually. It started the night of Mom's funeral, remember? You were so devastated, so broken. Alex needed comfort, and you were too wrapped up in your grief to give it to him. So I did. Mom's funeral. The worst night of my life, when I'd lost the woman who'd raised us both. I'd been inconsolable, and Alex had stepped outside for air while I cried myself to sleep. Sophia had gone to check on him. You slept with my husband the night our mother died? I comforted him, and he comforted me. We were both grieving, both lonely. It just happened. She shrugged like it was nothing. But then it kept happening, because we realized we were perfect for each other. So you decided to make sure I couldn't get pregnant. We decided to let nature take its course. If you were meant to have children, you would have gotten pregnant naturally by now. The medications just helped clarify things. I thought of all those months of hope and disappointment, all those painful procedures, all that money spent on treatments that were doomed to fail. You watched me suffer. You held my hand while I cried about being infertile, knowing you were the reason why. I was helping you face reality. Some women aren't meant to be mothers, Nina. But I am. She placed a protective hand over her still flat stomach, and I wanted to scream. There's something else you should know, Sophia continued, her voice taking on an almost gentle tone. About your miscarriage 2 years ago. My blood turned to ice. What about it? You were so happy that week, remember? You just found out you were pregnant naturally before you started the fertility treatments. You were planning how to tell Alex, picking out baby names. I remembered. It had been the happiest week of my life, those few precious days when I'd thought my dreams were finally coming true. I couldn't let that happen, Sophia said simply. Alex wasn't ready to be tied down with a baby, not with you, so I helped nature along. What did you do? I made you tea that afternoon when you were feeling sick. Remember? You said it tasted bitter, but I told you it was a new herbal blend that would help with nausea. The memory came flooding back. I'd been 6 weeks pregnant, just starting to feel morning sickness. Sophia had come over with groceries and made me chamomile tea while I rested on the couch. I drank the whole cup because she'd been so insistent that it would help. You gave me something to cause a miscarriage. I gave you a choice. Your body chose to let go of a pregnancy that wasn't meant to be. I didn't have a choice. You murdered my baby. I saved you from a lifetime of being trapped with a man who doesn't love you. Sophia's voice was calm, reasonable, like she was explaining something obvious to a child. That baby would have ruined everything. Alex would have stayed out of obligation, and you would have spent your whole life wondering if he really wanted to be there. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The room was spinning, and I felt like I was going to be sick. You killed my baby so you could steal my husband. I freed you both from a mistake. And now Alex and I can have the family we're meant to have. Our baby will be wanted, loved, planned for, not some accident that traps people in the wrong life. She moved toward the door, pausing to look back at me with something that might have been pity. You should thank me, Nina. Someday, when you've found someone who actually loves you, you'll understand that I did this for your own good. The front door closed behind her with a soft click, leaving me alone with the truth that was more devastating than anything I could have imagined. My sister hadn't just stolen my husband. She'd murdered my child and spent 2 years systematically destroying my body and my mind, and she thought she was doing me a favor. 1 year later, I stood in the courthouse steps, breathing in the crisp October air like a woman who'd been underwater for too long. The judge's words still echoed in my mind. Guilty on all counts. Alex had gotten 12 years for conspiracy, fraud, and assault. Sophia had gotten 15 for the same charges, plus what the prosecutor called reproductive coercion, a crime that barely had a name when this nightmare began, but now carried serious legal weight thanks to my case. The trial had been brutal. Sitting in that courtroom day after day, listening to lawyers dissect the most painful moments of my life. Watching Alex and Sophia's defense team try to paint me as an unstable woman who'd imagined the whole thing. But Dr. Harrison's testimony had been devastating for them. The medical evidence was undeniable. The recording I'd made of Sophia's confession had sealed their fate. Mrs. Chen? A reporter approached with a microphone. How do you feel about the verdict? I looked at her, this young woman with eager eyes who probably couldn't imagine the hell I'd survived. I feel like I can finally breathe again. It was true. For the first time in 3 years, my body belonged to me. No more mysterious medications, no more sabotage treatments, no more lies disguised as love. I'd spent 6 months working with a new doctor, Dr. Martinez, to undo the damage they'd done. It turned out my fertility was perfectly normal once the hormone blockers were out of my system. What's next for you? The reporter asked. I smiled, thinking of the ultrasound photos tucked safely in my purse. I'm going to be a mother. The pregnancy had been a surprise. After everything I'd been through, I'd assumed I'd need extensive treatment to conceive. But 3 months after the trial began, I'd missed a period. The positive test had made me cry for an hour, tears of joy mixed with grief for the baby Sophia had stolen from me. This time, I was doing everything differently. New doctor, new hospital, new support system. Mrs. Chen, my elderly neighbor who'd testified about seeing Sophia tampering with my medications, had become like a grandmother to me. Tyler, Alex's former business partner who'd helped expose their financial crimes, had surprised me by becoming a genuine friend. I should have seen it sooner, Tyler had told me during one of our coffee meetings. Alex was always secretive about money, always making excuses for why the business accounts didn't add up. But I never imagined he was stealing from you to fund his affair. The financial betrayal had been almost as devastating as the personal one. Alex had been slowly draining my inheritance, the money my mother had left me, to pay for his secret life with Sophia. Hotel rooms, jewelry, even the down payment on an apartment they'd planned to share once they'd driven me to give up on having children. But I'd gotten it all back, plus damages. The settlement had been enough to buy a small house in a quiet neighborhood, far from the memories that haunted our old place. I'd started my own marketing consultancy, working with small businesses and nonprofits. For the first time in my adult life, I was completely independent. The twins kicked as I walked to my car, reminding me of the miracle growing inside me. Yes, twins. Dr. Martinez had delivered that news with a huge grin, and I'd laughed until I cried. After years of thinking I couldn't have one baby, I was having 2. My phone buzzed with a text from Tyler. Saw the news. Congratulations on the verdict. Dinner this weekend to celebrate? Tyler and I had been taking things slowly. He'd been horrified to learn about his best friend's betrayal, and had spent months helping me piece together the financial evidence. Somewhere along the way, friendship had deepened into something more.